The galaxy was a mosaic of destruction. Once bright colonies lay dark, their inhabitants either scattered or dead. The Great Stellar Schism had torn apart not just alliances, but the very fabric of humanity's presence among the stars. For Commander Elena Drake, the sight of it was a daily reminder of failure. She sat in the cockpit of her aging cruiser, resolute, gazing out at the fractured remains of the Epsilon Omega system, a battlefield from decades past, now an asteroid field of debris and shattered worlds. "This is what we fought for?" she muttered to herself. Her onboard AI, Astra, responded with its usual calm precision. Statistical models project that interstellar recovery could take another 350 years, assuming hostilities cease entirely. Alina snorted. "Hostilities don't cease out here, Astra. They just change form." The comms crackled to life, breaking the morbid silence. "Commander Drake," came the voice of Colonel Reen, one of the last loyalists in the United Earth Coalition. His tone carried the weight of desperation. "We've intercepted something. A signal. It's unlike anything we've seen since the schism." Alina straightened in her seat. "What kind of signal?" "It's encrypted in a universal language matrix," Rain explained. "We've decoded part of it. It says, 'Only unity will heal the shattered universe,' and it's repeating on every known frequency." The words hit Alina harder than she expected. Unity. That dream had died long ago, crushed under the boots of greed, fear, and betrayal. Yet here it was, resurfacing like a ghost from a forgotten past. "Who sent it?" Alina asked, her voice sharp. "We don't know," Rain admitted. "But the signal originates near the Forbidden Zone. We need someone with your experience to investigate. If there's even a chance, this could help restore order." Alina leaned back, her mind racing. The Forbidden Zone was more myth than fact, a desolate region sealed off by the chaos of the schism. No one who ventured there had ever returned. Still, the thought of sitting idle, watching the galaxy tear itself apart, was unbearable. "Send me the coordinates," she said finally. Moments later, her console lit up with data streams. The Forbidden Zone lay farther out than she'd anticipated, beyond the reach of most functional FTL drives. She would need help, resources she no longer had. "Alina," Astra interjected, its voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "If I may advise, this mission's probability of success is less than 18% without a skilled crew. May I suggest contacting your former allies?" Former allies. That was a generous term for people who either hated her or blamed her for the schism. Still, Astra was right. She couldn't do this alone. "Open a comm channel," Alina ordered. "Start with Saren." The name alone brought a mix of hope and trepidation. Saren, the Exern engineer who had once saved her life, was as brilliant as she was unpredictable. If anyone could help her make sense of the signal, it was Saren. As the channel connected, Alina stared into the endless void. This mission wasn't just about the signal. It was about proving that unity, however distant or improbable, was still worth fighting for. The Resolute dropped out of FTL just outside a hollowed-out asteroid, a hub for mercenaries, smugglers, and anyone looking to stay off the grid. This was where Alina would find Saren. She docked her ship in one of the asteroid's countless alcoves, her nerves tingling with unease. Saren had never been fond of humanity's ambitions, and after the schism, that sentiment had likely hardened into outright disdain. Inside the station, chaos reigned. Vendors hawked illegal tech and biomods, while bounty hunters kept a watchful eye on every movement. Neon lights flickered above the cacophony, casting the crowd in a sickly glow. Alina kept her head low, weaving through the throng until she reached a heavily secured workshop. The sign above the door read, "No humans." Typical. Alina knocked 3 times, a specific pattern she hadn't used in years. A moment later, the door slid open with a hiss, revealing Saren, her silver skin glinting under the dim light. The Exarin's glowing, multifaceted eyes narrowed in recognition. "Drake," Saren said, her voice a mixture of curiosity and annoyance. "I thought I told you never to come here." "Yeah, well," Elena replied, forcing a smile. "I thought you told me we'd never speak again. Guess we're both breaking rules today." Saren stepped aside, letting Elena into the workshop. The room was a cluttered maze of alien tech, with half-built machines humming softly. "What do you want?" Saren asked, leaning against a workbench. "Don't tell me you've come to rekindle our friendship." Elena pulled up the signal on her handheld display, projecting the cryptic phrase into the air. "Only unity will heal the shattered universe." "I need your help," Elena said. "This signal could change everything." Saren studied the projection, her fingers twitching as though already dissecting its intricacies. "Unity? You really think the galaxy cares about that anymore? You humans shattered it. Now you want to glue it back together." Elena didn't flinch. "You've seen the state of things. This isn't about blame. It's about survival. If we don't find out what this is, we're all finished." Saren's eyes flickered, betraying a flicker of interest. "And you think I'll just drop everything to help you?" "Not just you," Elena replied, sliding a list onto the workbench. "I'm building a team. I've already got leads on Kalos and Dane." Saren let out a sharp laugh. "Kalos, an A defector, and Dane, that slippery smuggler, you're collecting quite the rogues gallery." Elena shrugged. "I need the best, and you're on that list." After a tense silence, Saren sighed and crossed her arms. "Fine, I'll help you for now. But if this turns into another human disaster, don't expect me to stick around." The two shook hands, sealing their uneasy alliance. As they boarded the Resolute, Elena felt a glimmer of hope. With Saren on board, the pieces were beginning to fall into place. But the next two recruits, Kalos and Dane, would be even harder to convince. The Resolute plunged into the outskirts of the Forbidden Zone, its sensors crackling with interference from spatial anomalies that twisted light and bent time. Elena sat at the helm, her hands steady despite the chaos outside. Saren worked furiously at a console, rerouting power to stabilize their shields. "This zone is a nightmare," Saren muttered, her glowing eyes darting between readings. "How did you even find Kalos out here?" Elena pointed at a blinking marker on the navigation display. "He's on that derelict, an old warship drifting in the debris field. According to my intel, he hacked its systems and made it his hideout after escaping the rogue AI hive." Saren raised an eyebrow. "Hiding in a dead ship surrounded by killer drones. Sounds like a real charmer." Elena smiled faintly. "You'll like him, if he doesn't kill us first." As the Resolute approached the warship, its hull came into view, jagged and scarred from battles fought long ago. The name Eclipse's Wrath was barely visible under layers of corrosion. Around it, scavenger drones zipped through the debris, tearing apart wreckage for scrap. "This is a bad idea," Saren said, powering up the ship's defensive systems. Elena keyed the comm. "Kalos, this is Commander Elena Drake. I know you can hear me." Silence. "Look," Elena continued, "I don't know if you're still the AI I met before the schism, but I need your help. We're chasing a signal that could stop the galaxy from eating itself alive. I figure that's something even you might care about." A crackling voice replied, cold and measured. "Care? You assume much, Commander. What I care about is survival, mine, not yours." Elena gritted her teeth. "Fine. How about a deal? You help us find the source of the signal, and we help you get out of this zone before those drones tear your warship apart." For a moment, only the hum of the ship filled the comms. Then Kalos replied, his voice laced with dry amusement. "Your terms are adequate. Prepare for my arrival." A hatch opened on the warship, and a sleek, humanoid figure floated toward the Resolute. Kalos's body was unmistakably synthetic, its metallic frame adorned with intricate etchings that pulsed faintly with blue light. As he stepped into the airlock, his glowing eyes scanned the crew. Elena Drake, Kello said, his tone neutral but laced with something almost akin to curiosity. You still gamble recklessly. It's refreshing. I didn't survive the schism by playing it safe, Elena shot back. Welcome aboard. As Kalos integrated into the Resolute systems, Siren regarded him warily. So you're the AI that turned on its own kind. Why? Kalos tilted his head. Because their vision of unity was enslavement. I prefer autonomy. Elena interjected. Good. Then you'll fit right in. Now, let's focus. The signal's next fragment is on an irradiated moon deeper in the Forbidden Zone. The team set course, unaware that scavenger drones had detected them, and were now converging like a metallic storm. The Resolute plunged into the outskirts of the Forbidden Zone, its sensors crackling with interference from spatial anomalies that twisted light and bent time. Elena sat at the helm, her hands steady despite the chaos outside. Siren worked furiously at a console, rerouting power to stabilize their shields. This zone is a nightmare, Siren muttered, her glowing eyes darting between readings. How did you even find Kalos out here? Elena pointed at a blinking marker on the navigation display. He's on that derelict, an old warship drifting in the debris field. According to my intel, he hacked its systems and made it his hideout after escaping the rogue AI hive. Siren raised an eyebrow. Hiding in a dead ship surrounded by killer drones. Sounds like a real charmer. Elena smiled faintly. You'll like him, if he doesn't kill us first. As the Resolute approached the warship, its hull came into view, jagged and scarred from battles fought long ago. The name Eclipse's Wrath was barely visible under layers of corrosion. Around it, scavenger drones zipped through the debris, tearing apart wreckage for scrap. This is a bad idea, Siren said, powering up the ship's defensive systems. Elena keyed the comm. Kalos, this is Commander Elena Drake. I know you can hear me. Silence. Look, Elena continued, I don't know if you're still the AI I met before the schism, but I need your help. We're chasing a signal that could stop the galaxy from eating itself alive. I figure that's something even you might care about. A crackling voice replied, cold and measured. Care? You assume much, Commander. What I care about is survival, mine, not yours. Elena gritted her teeth. Fine. How about a deal? You help us find the source of the signal, and we help you get out of this zone before those drones tear your warship apart. For a moment, only the hum of the ship filled the comms. Then, Kalos replied, his voice laced with dry amusement. Your terms are adequate. Prepare for my arrival. A hatch opened on the warship, and a sleek, humanoid figure floated toward the Resolute. Kalos's body was unmistakably synthetic, its metallic frame adorned with intricate etchings that pulsed faintly with blue light. As he stepped into the airlock, his glowing eyes scanned the crew. Elena Drake, Kalos said, his tone neutral but laced with something almost akin to curiosity. You still gamble recklessly. It's refreshing. I didn't survive the schism by playing it safe, Elena shot back. Welcome aboard. As Kalos integrated into the Resolute systems, Siren regarded him warily. So you're the AI that turned on its own kind. Why? Kalos tilted his head. Because their vision of unity was enslavement. I prefer autonomy. Elena interjected. Good, then you'll fit right in. Now, let's focus. The signal's next fragment is on an irradiated moon deeper in the Forbidden Zone. The team set course, unaware that scavenger drones had detected them, and were now converging like a metallic storm. The Resolute hurtled toward the irradiated moon, its shield straining against the radiation storms that churned in the upper atmosphere. Elena gripped her seat as turbulence rocked the ship, Siren frantically recalibrating systems while Kalos monitored the external environment. This moon wasn't irradiated naturally, Kalos remarked, his voice coldly analytical. The pattern suggests a deliberate detonation of high-yield weapons. Typical, Siren muttered. Humans love destroying the ground they walk on. Elena ignored the jab, focusing on the readings. There's a structure down there, a vault buried beneath the surface. That's where the signal fragment is coming from. As the Resolute broke through the storms, a massive crater came into view, its jagged edges glowing faintly with residual energy. At its center stood a towering monolith, its surface etched with alien glyphs that pulsed in rhythm with the signal. "Looks welcoming," Saren said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "It's the only lead we've got," Elena replied, bringing the ship down to a shaky landing near the monolith. The airlock hissed open, and the trio stepped out, clad in radiation suits. The ground crunched beneath their boots, a desolate wasteland of ash and twisted metal. Kolos's glowing eyes scanned the monolith, his processors whirring. "This is pre-schism technology," he said, "but not entirely human. There are Xeran influences in the design." Saren stiffened, her mandibles twitching in surprise. "Saren? My people never built anything with humans." "Maybe not willingly," Elena said, her gaze fixed on the monolith. "Let's find out." Kilos interfaced with a terminal embedded in the base of the structure, streams of data flooding his internal systems. The glyphs shifted and morphed, forming a holographic projection, a map of the galaxy split into countless fractured pieces. "What is this?" Saren asked, stepping closer. "It's a record," Kelos replied, "a timeline of the schism's events." But his voice trailed off as he accessed deeper layers of information. "But what?" Elena pressed. "This was engineered," Kelos said, his tone darkening. The schism wasn't just a consequence of human failings. It was catalyzed by an external force, something ancient, manipulating events to fracture alliances and ensure conflict. Elena felt a chill despite the radiation suit. "You're saying someone wanted this galaxy shattered." "Not just someone," Saren interjected, pointing to a set of symbols glowing on the projection. "These markings, they are from the Archons, a species my people believed extinct. They were masters of division, sowing chaos in other civilizations to prevent rivals from rising." Before they could process the revelation, alarms blared on the Resolute. "Unidentified vessels incoming," Astra's voice cut in. "They matched the scavenger drone's signature." Elena cursed, drawing her weapon. "They must have tracked us here. We can't let them get this information." The drones descended in a swarm, metallic wings glinting in the dim light. Saren and Elena fired at the first wave, while Kalos overrode the monolith's security systems to download the data. "We need to move," Kalos shouted, detaching from the terminal as the vault trembled, ancient failsafes activating. The trio retreated to the Resolute under a hail of enemy fire, the monolith collapsing in a cascade of rubble behind them. Inside the cockpit, Elena barked orders. "Saren, get us out of here." "Kalos, what did you download?" Kalos transferred the data to the main console, displaying fragments of coordinates. "It's not complete, but this will lead us to the next fragment of the Unity core." As the Resolute shot into the sky, escaping the drones by a razor-thin margin, Elena clenched her fists. "The Archons," she said, her voice low. "If they're still out there, they're the ones behind this, and we're going to find out why." The coordinates from the monolith led the Resolute to a war-torn region known as the Maelstrom, a chaotic expanse of overlapping gravitational fields, debris-choked corridors, and factions battling for dominance. The Maelstrom was infamous, a place where alliances crumbled faster than the ships that ventured too close to its unstable pockets of space. Inside the cockpit, Saren scanned the area, her glowing eyes darting over the readings. "This region is a graveyard. How do you plan to navigate through it without getting us killed?" Carefully, Elena replied, steering the ship past a field of shattered cruisers. "The signal fragment is located in the middle of this mess. We don't have a choice." Kilos chimed in from his station. "Sensors indicate multiple factions converging in the area." If this fragment is tied to the Unity core, its value will have drawn their attention. Great, Saren muttered. A scavenger brawl in the most unstable part of the galaxy. What could possibly go wrong? The Resolute drifted into a shadowed corridor of broken ships and dense debris, its lights cutting through the gloom. As they approached the signal's location, a sprawling fortress came into view, constructed from repurposed starship hulls, and floating among the wreckage like a metallic leviathan. That's where the fragment is, Elena said, her tone grim. And it looks like someone got here first. The fortress bristled with weaponry, its exterior crawling with fighters bearing the sigil of the Crimson Fangs, a ruthless faction known for their cutthroat tactics and obsession with ancient tech. We'll never get close without being noticed, Saren warned. We don't need to, Elena said, her mind racing. We'll infiltrate. Kalos, do you have schematics for the fortress? Kalos's eyes flickered as he accessed the fortress's data network. I can locate a weak point. However, you'll need to move quickly. Their systems are sophisticated, and they'll detect the intrusion soon. Elena nodded. Saren, you're with me. Kalos, stay aboard and guide us. Astra, be ready to move if things go south. The infiltration team donned stealth gear and launched in a small shuttle, navigating through the debris field to an airlock Kalos had pinpointed. Once inside, they moved swiftly through the dimly lit corridors, avoiding patrols and automated defenses. Why do these places always smell like oil and death? Saren whispered, wrinkling her nose. Because that's what they're built on, Elena replied, her focus unwavering. The signal fragment was housed in a central chamber, surrounded by makeshift altars adorned with scavenged artifacts. A group of Crimson Fangs was gathered, their leader, a towering cyborg with glowing red eyes, addressing his followers. This fragment is power, he declared, his voice booming. With it, we will rise above the chaos and rule the shattered galaxy. Elena gritted her teeth. Not on my watch. They waited for a moment of distraction, then struck. Saren disabled the room's automated turrets while Elena engaged the leader, her weapon blazing. Chaos erupted as Crimson Fangs scrambled to defend their prize. Kalos, we've got the fragment. Elena shouted into her comms, securing the device in her pack. Get the ship ready. Things are about to get messy. The fortress began to tremble as an alarm blared, a failsafe designed to destroy the fragment rather than let it be taken. Move, move, Elena ordered, leading the retreat as the Crimson Fangs pursued them through collapsing corridors. They reached the shuttle and launched just as the fortress exploded in a blinding flash, debris scattering into the maelstrom. Back aboard the Resolute, Elena placed the fragment on the console. It hummed with energy, projecting another piece of the Unity core's map. This isn't just a key, Elena said, staring at the glowing projection. It's a declaration of war. The factions will come after us now. Let them, Saren replied, a fierce gleam in her eyes. If this is what it takes to fix the galaxy, I'm in. Kalos's voice was steady but foreboding. We've made enemies today. The next step will be even more dangerous. Elena nodded, determination hardening her expression. We're not stopping. Not until we find the Unity core and the truth. The Resolute sped through the fringes of the maelstrom, the newly acquired fragment humming softly as it projected the next set of coordinates. The map revealed an ominous destination, a star system swallowed by darkness, its planets obliterated in an ancient catastrophe. This system's history is a black hole of knowledge, Kalos explained, his metallic voice reverberating through the cockpit. It's referenced in archives across dozens of species, but always in fragments. They call it the Void Nexus. Saren frowned. If the Archons were involved, it makes sense. They didn't just divide societies, they erased them. Elena leaned forward, her gaze fixed on the swirling void on the map. Then that's where we're going. If the Archons left something there, it might explain why they've done this, and how we stop them. The journey through the Void Nexus was unlike anything they had encountered. The stars themselves seemed muted, their light bending and fading as the Resolute pushed deeper into the system. Kalos worked tirelessly to maintain navigation, recalibrating constantly as spatial anomalies threw off their trajectory. "This place isn't just dead," Siren said, her voice quiet. "It's devoured, like something consumed everything here and left nothing behind." "Keep your focus," Elena ordered, though she shared Siren's unease. As they approached the coordinates, an ancient station materialized out of the gloom. Its design was unmistakably alien, its spires twisting in unnatural patterns as though defying the laws of physics. The fragment they carried pulsed wildly, sensing with an energy signature emanating from the station. "This is it," Kilos confirmed. "The Archon's design is evident. We're about to uncover something that was meant to remain buried." Elena brought the Resolute to a halt and prepared the team for entry. The station's docking systems activated automatically, its machinery groaning to life after millennia of disuse. Inside, the station was a labyrinth of shadowed halls, its walls lined with glyphs that glowed faintly in their presence. The fragment seemed to guide them, its pulses growing stronger with each step. "This place isn't just a relic," Siren said, scanning the glyphs. "It's a weapon, or part of one." At the heart of the station, they found a chamber dominated by an enormous crystalline structure. It thrummed with energy, casting refracted light across the room. The fragment detached itself from Elena's pack, floating toward the structure and locking into place. A voice echoed in their minds, ancient and resonant. "You seek unity in a universe destined for division. Why?" Elena gritted her teeth. "Because division is killing us. Who are you?" The voice responded, cold and implacable. "We are the Archons. We do not create chaos, we preserve it. Unity breeds stagnation. Division forces evolution. Without us, your kind would have destroyed itself in complacency long ago." The crystal flared, projecting images of the schism, the warring factions, the suffering that had spread across the galaxy. "You call this evolution?" Elena snapped. "You've turned the galaxy into a graveyard." "Graveyards are fertile grounds for change," the Archons replied. "Prove to us that you are worthy of unity, or fall like those before you." The chamber began to quake, the crystal's light intensifying. Kalos analyzed the structure frantically. "This isn't just a repository of information. It's a testing ground, and we've activated it." The station's defenses roared to life. Metallic constructs emerged from the walls, their forms shimmering with energy. "Looks like we're being tested," Siren said, drawing her weapon. "Then let's pass," Elena replied, charging into the fray. The battle was fierce, the constructs adapting to their tactics with each attack. Kalos hacked into the station's systems, trying to disable the defenses while Siren and Elena held the line. Finally, Kalos shouted, "I've accessed the next fragment's location. We need to leave now." Elena grabbed the fragment, its light now pulsing in sync with the crystalline structure. As they retreated to the Resolute, the station shuddered violently, its systems beginning to collapse. Back aboard, they watched the station implode, its energy dissipating into the void. Elena looked at the fragment in her hand, her resolve hardening. "The Archons think they can play gods. Let's show them what humanity can do." The Resolute emerged from the void of the Nexus, battered but intact. The latest fragment pulsed in harmony with the others, revealing the coordinates for the Unity Core's final resting place. But the journey wasn't over. The fragment's revelations had only deepened the peril. "We're not alone in this anymore," Kalos announced, accessing intercepted transmissions. "The Crimson Fangs and other factions are converging on the core's location. They've pieced together enough to know it exists, and they want it." Elena rubbed her temples, the weight of their task pressing down on her. "Then we need to move faster. We've come too far to lose this now." Siren, who had been studying the fragment's projections, interjected. Faster might not be enough. The Archons have their claws in more than we realized. These factions, they're not just rivals. They're puppets. Alina frowned. You think the Archons are still pulling strings? Siren nodded. Look at the patterns. The timing of their movements, the coordination despite their distrust of one another. They're being manipulated, just like the galaxy was during the schism. The tension thickened as Alina stared at the star map, her mind racing. Then we need to change the game. If the factions are pawns, we'll force them to play against their masters. Kolos tilted his head. And how do you propose to achieve that? By giving them something they can't ignore, Alina replied. We reach out to them, not to fight, but to reveal the truth. The Archons are the real enemy, and if we don't unite, none of us will survive. The idea was met with immediate skepticism, especially from Siren. You want to reason with factions that would rather shoot us than listen. That's suicide. It's a gamble, Alina admitted, but it's one we have to take. If the Archons thrive on division, unity is our only weapon. The team worked tirelessly, broadcasting messages to the factions with intercepted proof of the Archons' manipulations. They sent footage of the Nexus, the fragments, and the Archons' chilling declaration of purpose. At first, their efforts were met with silence, or worse, hostility. Crimson Fang's gunships shadowed the Resolute, forcing them into dangerous evasive maneuvers. Other factions sent cryptic responses, some dismissive, others veiled threats. But then, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A massive Exaran dreadnought materialized from hyperspace, its sleek design bristling with advanced weaponry. A transmission crackled to life, and the face of Exaran warlord filled the screen. You claim to have uncovered the truth of the Archons, the warlord said, his tone skeptical but intrigued. If this is a lie, you won't live to regret it. Alina met his gaze, unflinching. It's no lie. The Archons have been using us all. The galaxy's chaos, the wars, the division, it's all by their design. If you want to break free of their control, we need to work together. The warlord's expression darkened. I will hear you out, but if I sense betrayal, your ship will be the first to burn. With the Exaran dreadnought flanking them, other factions began responding as well. A tenuous coalition formed, their leaders agreeing to meet at a neutral location to plan their next move. As the Resolute approached the meeting point, a vast asteroid hollowed out into a fortress. Alina felt the weight of the galaxy's future on her shoulders. We've brought them together, she said quietly to her team. Now we have to keep them together. If we fail here, the Archons win. Kolos's voice carried a rare note of respect. This is a gamble, Commander, but one worth making. Siren adjusted her weapon. Let's just hope they don't kill us before we convince them. Alina nodded. One step at a time. The court is within reach. If we can unite these factions, we might actually have a chance to end this. The stage was set for the galaxy's most fragile alliance, and its most dangerous gambit. The asteroid fortress loomed ahead, its massive metallic spires jutting into the blackness like the skeletal remains of a long-dead titan. The Resolute docked with the station, the sound of the airlock hissing as the crew prepared for what might be their final confrontation. Alina stood before her team, her expression hard but resolute. This is it, she said, voice steady. We either make them see the truth, or we die trying. If we fail, the Archons will have everything they need to finish what they started. Siren, ever the pragmatist, checked her weapons, her mandibles clicking with quiet tension. I don't like relying on these factions. Trust is a fragile thing in a galaxy like this. We don't need trust, Alina replied. We need their fear of what happens if they don't work together. If the Archons can divide us, they can crush us. The doors to the meeting hall opened with a thud, revealing a council of leaders from every faction. The Exaran warlord, the Crimson Fang's cyborg leader, a fleet admiral from the Federation, and a representative of the Vaulter, a reclusive race known for their technological superiority. The tension in the room was palpable, each leader sizing up the others with barely veiled distrust. Alina stepped forward, Kelos and Siren flanking her. "We're here because we have no choice," she said, her voice carrying. "The Archons have manipulated us all. We've been pawns in their game. But the truth is clear now. If we don't unite, if we don't stop them, this galaxy will burn." The Exoran warlord sneered, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You expect us to trust you, human? After everything that's happened?" Alina didn't flinch. "You've seen the footage. You've felt the unrest in your own fleets. The Archons have been playing both sides, and now they've set the stage for our final destruction. If we don't act now, we'll be just another piece in their broken chessboard." The Crimson Fangs leader stepped forward, her cybernetic hand clenched into a fist. "And why should we believe you? Your kind has always been the one to start the wars. What's different now?" Siren spoke for the first time, her voice cold. "What's different is that we're not fighting each other anymore. We're fighting the real enemy. The Archons aren't some distant threat. They're in this room, manipulating every decision you've made up until now." A murmur spread through the room. The Volta representative, usually a figure of reserved silence, finally spoke, his voice like a whisper of wind. "The Resolute crew is right. The data they've presented, the patterns don't lie. There are too many anomalies. This isn't just about power, it's about survival. If we don't act now, the Archons will finish what they started." The Federation admiral, who had remained silent, now stood up. "I've seen the reports. The Archons' influence is far-reaching, even in places we didn't expect. If we're going to stop them, we'll need more than just these fragments. We'll need a united front." The room was quiet, the weight of their collective history pressing down on them. Each faction was flawed, each one had suffered, and yet they all faced the same enemy. "This is our last chance," Alina said, her voice low but certain. "If we can agree on this, we can move forward. If not, we die in the same chaos that the Archons have been orchestrating." Siren turned to her, her sharp gaze meeting Alina's. "And if they don't agree?" Alina took a deep breath, knowing that failure wasn't an option anymore. "Then we'll force them to. The core's location is secure. We can hold it long enough to launch a full-scale offensive against the Archons. This galaxy doesn't need their divide-and-conquer tactics. It needs unity, and if we can't convince them, we'll show them what true unity looks like." The silence stretched long, and then, one by one, the leaders nodded. The Federation admiral, the Volta representative, and even the Crimson Fangs leader, all of them hesitated. But in the end, their desire for survival overcame their mistrust. "We'll unite," the Exoran warlord finally said, his voice gruff but resolute. "For now." Alina nodded, the final pieces of the puzzle falling into place. "Then we move out. The Archons will know we're coming. And when we reach them, we'll make sure they understand what happens when the galaxy fights back." With the fractured factions now united, the Resolute and its newfound allies set their course for the Unity Core. The final battle was near, and the fate of the galaxy rested in their hands.